This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, here on November the 20th, 2023. And Christmas is coming up, so I got a beautiful Toronto celebration going on behind me because, well, I would love to live in Toronto. I love Toronto. Toronto is awesome, you know. But today, we may be talking a little Toronto, especially if we decide to go to Pogey Beach. But right now, we're trying to find out who's your father. And to decide that, I have the director of said film on the show with me today. I welcome Jeremy Larter. How do you do, Jeremy?
I'm doing great, Greg. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Jesse, your cap, you got ice cream cones on there.
I do. Yeah. Owning an ice cream machine is actually my dream. I want to have an ice cream stand one day.
So you just blame it on the Susan Kent instead, huh?
That's right. Yeah. I just put my dream on to Rhonda in the movie. And I got to channel my dreams of my ice cream dreams through Rhonda.
There you go. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Gee, I mean, I'm a sucker for chocolate dip, Belgian chocolate dip cone that you can get in PEI, especially. PEI has got some of the best dairy bars in Canada, especially the west end of PEI. Um, I could, Somerset ice cream in PEI, incredible. Decker's another great one too, if you're ever on the island to get some soft serve.
I like strawberry, but
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell
my
you,
daughter loves strawberry too.
yeah, but you know what? I like Dairy Queen, especially the blizzards. Do you have a favorite blizzard?
Um, the triple chocolate one or chocolate explosion or whatever it is. Whatever like the triple most extreme chocolate one is, that's my favorite.
Oh, there you go. There you go. For me, it's either Reese's peanut butter cup or cookie dough, although I'm pretty much good with any of them, but
Yeah, no, my son likes those. My oldest son likes those a lot. He's 9. He likes he always goes for Smarties or the Oreo.
yeah. What does
Yeah.
Mark Hickox go for?
Oh, geez. I think you take every single flavor and mix it into one. That would be my guess.
Well, you know what? I went and saw Who's Your Father? It was, I believe, last Monday. We had that off here. So I went and I saw that and I enjoyed it. I love the poster for it.
Oh, thank you.
And anyway, before we get into that, I'd love to get a little bit of your background and what got you into the industry.
Well, my background is that I'm born and raised in PEI, on the North Shore in a place called West Cove Head, which is about 20 minutes from Charlottetown and about 30 minutes from Anne of Green Gables land in Cavendish. And I was a teenager in the 90s, and when Pulp Fiction came out, when I was in grade 10, that was kind of it for me. I wanted to be a filmmaker, and got involved in my local film co-op in Charlottetown as a kid, and moved to Halifax and took film classes and did background work, and eventually made my first web series in 2008, which was called Profile PEI. And that was sort of like at the cusp of web series being made in North America. And that kind of took off a little bit on the island. So we made like a new episode every week with that series and kind of got a following and got some national press in that, and made another series called Ponderings, which was also like quite popular in PEI and on the East Coast, especially. And then eventually made a series called Just Passing Through, which a lot of people might know about Terry and Parnell Gallant, two Islanders who are trying to go down to Alberta and get stuck in Toronto at their uppity cousin Owen's house and never leave. So I've been at it for a while, and then that spun off into Pogey Beach. So I've been kind of working my way through the industry in various capacities for a long time, but I've been making my own stuff pretty consistently now for the last 15 years.
It's interesting you mentioned Pulp Fiction because I saw that in the theater. I actually saw that as a double billing, that and the Santa Claus the same night, if you can believe that. But I've seen all of Quentin Tarantino's movies in theaters. I didn't see Reservoir Dogs upon its release in 1992, but I eventually attended a midnight screening. but Pulp Fiction is my favorite of his movies, and I remember seeing that in the big screen. And I've interviewed Steve Hibbert, who was the Gimp.
Oh yeah,
He's been a guest on here.
nice.
He's got a great sense of humor, which I guess you would have to.
Yeah, I guess you would. Yeah, yeah, to play that
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, I love Pulp Fiction. Do you have a favorite Tarantino movie, or is it Pulp Fiction?
It probably is Pulp Fiction. I really love his movies up to Kill Bill, and then ever since then, I still enjoy them. But my favorites are definitely in the first half of his career, and even like True Romance, as a screenplay that he wrote. Like I actually love True Romance as a movie too. And I still like his stuff since then, but I don't know if it's because I was younger when I saw the earlier stuff, but like I definitely the earlier films have more of a place in my heart. But Pulp Fiction to me is still his best film.
Yeah, well, I noticed the trailer. I gotta admit, I have not seen Pogey Beach, and I just checked out the trailer today, and I noticed the music along with the trailer was very Pulp Fiction like. Now, I am under the impression that was intentional.
Yeah, that was all intentional. Yeah, yeah. We took the font and we found like a surf track that was reminiscent of Dick Dale and put that together. Yeah, that was my little nod to Tarantino there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you still live in PEI?
I don't right now. So I go back a lot. I go back all the time, especially to make projects there. So I actually live in Prince Edward County now. I was in Toronto for about 10 years. And then my wife and I met in the city. We had a couple kids. I have a son from a previous relationship. So our 1.5 bedroom apartment in Toronto was getting quite small. And she's got family out here. So we moved out here. It feels a lot like the Maritimes. It feels about as close to the Maritimes as you can get in Ontario, I think. Uh, it's very similar. Yeah.
You know what? I want to live in. First off, I'll go to Prince Edward Island first. We used to go there every year camping. I'm 51 years old, and I remember when I was young, we used to go to PEI every year camping when I was in school, and
Did you
with
go to
my
Rainbow
brother.
Valley?
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. Rainbow Valley, and I remember we saw Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome at the drive-in there in
Mhm.
'85, and
Which do you remember which drive-in?
I don't know. I think we saw Cannonball Run 2 there the year before too, which was not such a great movie looking back now, but at the time we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I remember a lot of that. I think we saw a revival of Swiss Family Robinson there, but I we used to go there every year and it used to be a lot of fun. Is Rainbow Valley still there?
It's not. Well, it is. I mean, the park's closed, has been closed for about 20 years now. It's like hiking and walking trails. Some of the rides and some of the stuff that was there has moved to another place called Shining Waters, sort
Mm-hmm.
of across the road, not far from where Rainbow Valley used to be. But I mean, that was like still, I think, like the most magical children's amusement park that ever existed. You could actually find some really interesting documentaries about Rainbow Valley on YouTube because the guy who made it was like a self-taught genius farmer guy and PEI who like designed all those things himself and built them. So it was like quite a really magical, wonderful place. Yeah, the fondest of memories there.
I just remember that big spaceship thing they had there that you go up in there and they'd have like a gift shop and I remember it very fondly. I don't recall the other stuff there, but I just remember that big ship, and we go up in there and but we used to go there every year when I was young, and it was the only time I think I've ever been outside the Maritimes is going to Prince Edward Island and I get homesick just going to Moncton or St. John.
Yeah, where are you from?
I live in Fredericton, lived here my entire life.
Born and raised, yeah.
Yeah. Although now I'm trying to get out of here to Toronto
Yeah.
because in 2017, I started the podcast here in 2015. I've done about almost 800 interviews since then. And
Wow.
And I had a Canadian actress on here a couple times by the name of Lisa Langlois, who was in Class of 1984 and Deadly Eyes and Happy Birthday to Me. Um, she had just in 2017, I think she was just moved back from Los Angeles, where she lived for some time, and we got talking about travel. And she asked what was stopping me. And I was telling her this and this and this. I'd never been in a plane before, not this. And well, she made me an offer I could not refuse. She invited me to assist her at a horror film convention called Horrorama in Toronto. And I could not say no to that. And I had a lot of things going through my mind when at that time, like, gee, I'm going to have to leave my comfort zone.
Mhm.
And but nonetheless, it was my first time on a plane, and I gotta say, it felt like a bus in the sky. I actually really dug it, and I love Porter Airlines a lot. And I landed in Billy Bishop Airport, and that was interesting because it's the first time I've seen escalators since the 80s, because we don't have them in Fredericton anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we used to have a Zellers downtown that had it, but that Zellers isn't there anymore, and neither is the escalator. So, needless to say, I get a kick out of going on the escalators on in the tunnel part of Billy Bishop. And Lisa met me at the Royal Hotel, and she taught me about using the streetcars and the subways. Also, we don't have here.
Mhm.
So needless to say, she's got me well trained on that stuff now, because I've been to, with the exception of 2020, I've been to Toronto every year since. I've done 3 conventions with Lisa. She's become a dear friend. And what was interesting that first year I went is she and I went to dinner that night I arrived, and she was asking me a lot of questions about the Maritimes and about Fredericton, because she'd never been here. And the only thing going through my head as we chatted, because I can't remember the details of our conversation, what I do remember is that I was thinking to myself is, why the hell am I not homesick?
Mhm.
Why do I go to Moncton or St. John and get homesick, but I go to Toronto and I don't want to come back? How
Mhm.
interesting is that? So this year, I actually landed a job in Toronto, which may be held for me, thank goodness. I was supposed to start June 20th, but it's like National Lampoon's Vacation, where they ask Chevy Chase, why aren't we flying? We get there faster, and he says, well, getting there is half the fun. You know that. And everything goes wrong.
Mhm.
That's been my case. First, I encounter apartment scammers, which I have never fell for, and trying to find a place where I could take my cat Skittles with me, because I'm not just going to give my cat up. And I'm not married. I don't have any kids. Just matter of packing up a U-Haul, but I'm not rich, so I mean, I can't stay in a $2,000 bachelor apartment.
Mhm.
So I'm struggling in that department, but I'm hoping I can make that move to Toronto, because every year I go, it's like I feel like I belong.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you got any advice on that?
I mean, I
How,
don't know. I mean, it's so
how,
much different there now than it was when I'm like when I first lived in Toronto in 2003 to 2005,
hmm
and then that was the first stint. The second stint was 2010 to about 2020. Um, you know, it's tough. Rent's tough. I mean, I think finding a place to live is the first thing, is the hardest thing to do there now, probably. So if you have any friends that you can share a place with to even start, that'd be the first place, I guess, because finding accommodations that are reasonably priced is probably the trickiest thing about living in Toronto.
yeah. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to see if I can make that work at some point, and I'm a little disappointed it hasn't, but so far, but I love Toronto. Love
Yeah,
Toronto.
it's a great city.
Hmm. Absolutely. But nonetheless, I saw Who's Your Father, loved it, but I want to talk a little bit about Pogey Beach first. I want you to whet my appetite for it because it does look interesting. Um, looking at Pogey Beach and looking at Who's Your Father, I'm going to take a guess and say you have a love for screwball comedies.
Yes, I do, absolutely.
Any influences?
Um, I mean, I love screwball comedy from the 30s and 40s too. Like
Hmm.
Preston Sturges films, is a place to start. I mean, Raising Arizona is one of my favorite comedies. I think that qualifies as a screwball. I mean, 80s comedies in general, like John Candy films from the 80s are a big influence. Pink Panther, Peter Sellers, I love. Huge Peter Sellers fan. Doctor Strangelove too is a Kubrick comedy that's
Yep.
fairly screwball. Would be another one. Yeah, like all that stuff, and like mixing different genres too is always the thing that's really fun. That I have a lot of fun with, and I like. Pogey Beach was basically trying to take like a '60s beach party movie with Frankie and Annette, and then
Hmm.
trying to put that into the east coast of Canada in the Maritimes and see how that would play out. That was kind of, and then like a teenage rebellion movie, and kind of make those into like a wild screwball comedy.
You know what I find frustrating is that and this has kind of led to a big disdain I have for New Brunswick in general. Nobody knows where New Brunswick is, you know? I'll do a Zoom setup and people get the time mixed up because they think I'm East Coast and I'm like, "No, I'm 1 hour ahead of that. And
Mhm.
I have to explain that constantly that I'm 4 hours ahead of Los Angeles. I'm an hour ahead of New York. And it is a constant frustration, let me tell you. And I don't know, like I saw a video not too long ago, and it was ranking the 10 provinces of Canada. And I was actually surprised that New Brunswick ranked in the top three. And I'm sitting here thinking, how? You know?
Well, I think New Brunswick kind of gets overlooked. Even though there's lots of great things about New Brunswick, um, and really beautiful parts of New Brunswick, but I think it gets overshadowed by the other provinces somehow. And I don't know if it's like because New Brunswick doesn't promote itself as
Nope, it
well.
does not.
Yeah.
Nope, it does not. You know? One of the big reasons why I'm pushing your film is because I think it's got quality.
Well, thank
I
you.
think I think you made a great product. But it frustrates me that other areas in Canada are often talked about, like Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal. Not so, well, never New Brunswick. I don't think I've ever seen a movie where New Brunswick, Canada was referenced. And Nova Scotia, not much more, but
Some
but
for sure. Nova Scotia gets referenced in a lot of music too. Actually, like from the 60s and 70s, I think there's like a lot of US musicians that were going to Nova Scotia. Like it's mentioned in that Carly Simon song and others. But yeah, I totally get your point.
yeah, and it frustrates me because it's like, I lived here forever, although Fredericton is not Toronto. I'm going to tell you, I fell in love with the whole idea of getting off a subway stop, and it's like a whole new world, whatever stop you get off of. I like that.
Mm.
But
I know a few New Brunswick filmmakers though who are probably going to change that. Sandy Hunter and Clem McIntosh. Well, there's Hemmings House Productions too in New Brunswick, but I think they're in the works. Sandy just moved back to New Brunswick a couple years ago, and they've got project like a film that they're shooting next year.
Hmm.
Uh, and I'm pretty sure New Brunswick will be the backdrop, and they're developing shows as well where New Brunswick is the backdrop. So I think you may see a change there the next like two to 3 years where New Brunswick starts becoming more of a cultural hub.
Well, I'd like to see it. Like that's another thing too. I'd love to see more into the stuff that's shot in and around here be seen like in the States. Like I push the Trailer Park Boys a lot. I
Mhm.
love the Trailer Park Boys. And I don't think they're quite as well known in Europe, though the States, yeah, I have so I guess they're popular in Texas, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
But yep, and I definitely like to push them. And I have to remind people that The Wolf of Wall Street is not the most profane film in the world. No. Swearing at the movie by the Trailer Park Boys had 935 F-bombs. Boom, we win. Acknowledge that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I've seen that. I've seen that graph before with swearing it at the top.
Yep, I enjoyed it.
I still haven't seen the swearing at movie yet. I think I've seen the first Trailer Park Boys movie in theaters, and I don't know if I've seen any other of the movies since then.
I've seen them all in the theaters, and I'm aware that Bon Cop, Bad Cop became our highest grossing film, and I saw that at the film festival here and got a kick out of that.
Mhm.
But but nonetheless, I loved what I enjoyed about Who's Your Father is that there was nothing fake or fakery about the film. The jokes all landed. I laughed at it. I had a great time with it.
No, that's
And
very nice to hear.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, After completing Pogey Beach, where did you get the idea for Who's Your Father?
Well, I had a draft of another screenplay that I had started in 2015. That was basically like a straight ripoff of a movie called Detour from 1945 that
I
you can
know
find
that
on
movie.
YouTube. Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen it screened.
yeah. Oh, really? Yeah,
Yep.
it's a cool one. It's like a very low budget noir from the 40s, but some great characters in it. And so basically the junior story thread in Who's Your Father is a remnant of my first draft of that script that was kind of ripping off Detour. And then 2020, I got development funding from Telefilm to write a new draft of that script. And that's when really the movie became the movie. And then as I was rewriting it, a private investigator character started to weave its way in. And then I'd also worked on a project called Wharf Rats that was produced by Jason Arsenault and Jenna McMillan, who produced Who's Your Father as well. That was shot on PEI, and Susan Kent was in that. And I met Susan and got to see her in action. She played a fairly small role in Wharf Rats, but I got to see her in action. And she's so insanely talented. To me, she's like a Catherine O'Hara level talent. And after seeing her, I wanted to write a great role for her and work with her. And then this convenience store character that was in one scene originally in that script grew and became bigger. And then the story started to take shape. And I called a private investigator in PEI that I looked up on Google. There was one listed on Google. I was even surprised that there was one, just to kind of do some research to find out like what it was like to be a PEI PI.
Did he have
And
the corner? Did he have the market cornered?
he had the market cornered. He absolutely did. To his chagrin, I think he had the market cornered. To his chagrin, because he was very upset and disgruntled uh, about being in the business, and he was about to quit because he was getting tired of people asking him to like spy on relatives, and um, everything was so menial and just like there's no glamour in it at all. So that was a really good phone call for me to have because it kind of like it basically created this idea of like what doing that job in PI would be like, and I kind of had that initial thought anyway, and that kind of like, cemented it in my mind that being a PI was kind of an absurd notion. So that's where it kind of took off from there. So that was kind of the seed of it. And then like the lobster stuff, I worked as a lobster fisherman for one summer. I worked at the Cove Head Wharf that's in the film for a lobster buyer. So all that lobster angle, and that wharf is like 10 minutes away from where I grew up in PEI. So that kind of was all part of my experience of living on the island. So all those things kind of all blended together.
You mentioned Susan Kent, and I got to bring this up because I remember, and this Jerry Lewis once said, and I always had an issue with Jerry Lewis regarding this. He said women cannot be funny, which I find absurd. Especially he
Mhm.
said that in a time when you had Lucille Ball out there who could easily hold her own against him.
Yeah,
But
probably
I
Carol
mean,
was around too at that time.
yeah, and even look lately. I mean, Kate McKinnon, I can't hold a straight face watching Kate McKinnon. I think Emma Stone is hilarious, you know.
Mm.
But watching Who's Your Father, I had probably got my biggest amount of joy watching Susan Kent be more than just the love interest. She got to not only chew scenery, she got to be really hilarious, especially when she was trying to do a prank phone call in it. That was great. She's somebody I would love to get on the show here, but you mentioned Catherine O'Hara. I can certainly see that, She was fantastic, and of course she's the one that had the dream of owning the ice cream machine.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's incredible. And if you look at her, if you really go through her work that she did in 22, I mean, she's also a great actor and a writer herself. And she can do theater, she can do it all. And if you look at, yeah, just like her physical comedy is incredible. Um, she can do everything. And in 22 minutes, she did such a wide range of characters. I mean, if you really go through her work, I mean, it's just incredible that men, women, she's playing everybody. Her Celine Dion impression is just like through the roof, funny, insane. I just think that she's just like on a level of talent that's like the top tier of anywhere, not just Canada.
Yeah, and I especially love their idea of disguises, moving Christmas trees across the property and hiding behind them. I'm sorry, I thought that was just too funny.
Yeah, I mean, it was like so insane. Like those Christmas trees. Originally, they were only supposed to be in the opening scene with Larry's van,
Hmm.
um, where he's kind of got his van parked behind one of those spy trees. Um, and then that location that we found for the Thorn Cottage, it was originally in the script, it was set amongst sand dunes, which is also very hard to find. And just we couldn't find a place that worked like that. And then we found this great location in Stanhope that was right next to that wharf, Covehead Wharf. Um, so it worked it for a number of ways and it had that beautiful view of the sand dunes in the background. Um, so we had to find something for them to hide behind. And then it was like, well, let's bring the spy trees back. So that's how those trees worked their way back into the script, and the story. So yeah, it was totally crazy, absurd. I mean, I had moments where I was like, oh my God, are these trees just like too insane? But it all worked.
I loved it.
Oh,
And
thanks.
yeah, and Chris Locke is hilarious. What a great lead. And that stuff where the guy says this is just a small taste. He gives him the money, and he does the whole acting like he's eating the money in Belgium. Was that improvised?
That was actually written into the script that he would do that. I mean, the way Chris did it was like all of his own, but like that actually was in the script that he was supposed to pretend to eat the money and make a fool of himself. Yeah, Chris is incredible. I had seen Chris's stand-up work and sketch stuff on YouTube for years, and I had friends of Chris in Toronto. I had never met him before, but wanted him to audition for Larry. I knew he was definitely someone I thought could do it. He had never played a lead role in a movie before, but I wanted Chris, and he auditioned. He was great. I really loved him. And then when he read with Susan together, we did a chemistry read together with the two of them in Toronto. Still during COVID. This was like May of 2022. So it was kind of like a thing where people weren't getting together for unnecessary reasons that much. But I really wanted to see the actors read together because the chemistry was so vital between Larry and Rhonda. And they were just like a magic chemistry between the two of them. Because they're both such unique people, I think, and like uniquely talented, smart, funny people that there's just like some magic chemistry that happened between the two of them.
I got the biggest kick out of the sex party. And he has this freaking ski mask with the freaking ball on the top of it. And he's eating little things of cheese. I'm like, yeah, he doesn't stand out like a sore thumb, does he?
Yeah, he's very preoccupied with the snack selection.
Yeah. Very out of place. Oh man, I thought he was hilarious. In some ways, he kind of reminded me of Jeff Bridges in The Big Lebowski too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, The Big Lebowski is one of my favorite comedies.
yep.
Definitely an inspiration. I also love Raymond Chandler's detective novels, his Marlowe novels, which were an inspiration for The Big Lebowski and an inspiration for this too. And I mean, I don't know, I can't even count how many times I've seen The Big Lebowski. 50? I don't know. I've seen it so many times. I still love it.
I had the guy that destroyed the car. The guy owned the Corvette and it runs out
Oh
there,
yeah.
and I had him on the show this year.
Oh nice.
I saw that film in the theater, and I cannot believe that film is 25 years old. Like, where does the time go?
I know. I saw it in theaters too. I saw it in
Mm-hmm.
theaters in Charlottetown in 98. Yeah, 25 years. I mean,
Yep.
that's crazy.
Yep. Yep. And we're hoping that Who's Your Father gains the same kind of cult status. It's
I
certainly
mean,
plenty.
that'd be a dream. If anyone was watching anything I made 25 years later, I mean, I'd be honored. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We got to talk about some of the sight jokes because I mean, bringing up Chris Lock, all I can remember at the top of my head is that shot of a full bucket of condoms.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, every fishing boat's got one of those, I think, don't they?
Oh, you're speaking from experience, are you?
No, 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 no. No, but I've heard, I mean, that idea is sort of loosely based on something a lobster buyer actually said to me once
Hmm.
about you wouldn't believe actually the line is sort of in the movie too. You wouldn't believe what some people will do for a feed of lobster. Uh that's kind of where that condom bucket comes from.
Oh, it was a great sight joke.
It was a lot of fun to do. I think the props department had a lot of fun putting that all together.
Absolutely. Well, you had some great characters in this, of course, like I got the page up here, so I want to get the characters right. But of course, I had Mark Hickox on here last week. Had a great time with him, and of course, he played Blair. I love the fact because at the beginning of the film, you see Blair playing a really horrible, horrible golfer, and of
Mhm.
course, he's an alcoholic golfer. And he ends up showing up there later on. In fact, I love there's a scene for instance where there's a gunpoint scene and he's just laying passed out in the bed, oblivious to everything.
Uh-huh.
It's like he don't know what's going on.
No.
But I think my favorite scene with him, where Chris is talking to Thorne on a golf course, and you got you got um, Mark in the background driving crazily on the golf course, hitting the ball and whatnot, and obviously not doing a very good undercoverage. Chris says, "This guy helps me with my most complicated cases." Like I'm sure he does. I'm sure he helps you.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you picked up on that line because yeah, that's like kind of like a little subtle thing that's thrown in there, but the idea that Blair would somehow help Larry as a duo is pretty funny. And Mark was like that scene in the motel, that was Mark's last day of shooting. So his on his last day, he just laid in a bed.
And I like the fact he's laying there. He's not knocked out, nothing. He's just passed out.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
when he wakes up, like it's like, yeah, this happened. Like
Yeah, I think actually with and like one of the earlier drafts of the script, there was like a scene after that, like a little scene of him like waking up in the motel alone, as if everybody else had left, like the next morning, and he just kind of like steps outside and is like missed the whole thing. Um, but Mark was really funny. I know I met Mark sometime after we did our second, or just passing through Kickstarter campaign for season 2. He reached out to me. I think his dad had just recently passed away and was living on PEI. So I think the show just passing through had like a personal connection to him at that time. I was like, yeah, around 2015, I think. So we kind of stayed in touch over the years. And then originally I hadn't thought of him as Blair, which in hindsight is kind of crazy that I didn't. But then he found out that other people were auditioning in
mhm.
Toronto. He's very tight with the acting community there. He plays hockey with a lot of them. Um, so then he reached out to me like, "What the hell, man? Why haven't you sent me this script to read for?" So then he started taping himself as Blair, like hitting golf balls off his little deck in Toronto, and yeah, and then he was just really funny and perfect for the role.
He struck me as a cross between Bill Murray in Caddyshack and Adam Sandler in Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
can
could
see
see
that.
both of that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
You
I
know,
really liked him in it. Yeah.
oh yeah, he's definitely. And I was just gonna say, there's like yeah, elements of people that I know at stand-up golf course where I grew up playing golf. There's like different pieces of people from that golf course that I played with at stand-up in Blair too. Yeah, yeah. I grew up playing there from the time I was like 8 years old, and my dad and mom both still play golf there. So yeah, and that clubhouse that they're sitting on, like the steps in that opening kind of montage, that's stand-up golf course. Yeah.
Matt Wells as Luke Thorne, also really, really funny. You had a scene. I'm trying to do this without giving anything away, where he's a kind of oblivious of what's going on, and he just kind of picks him up and leaves a situation, while other people don't really see him leaving the situation. I think you know what scene I'm talking
Yeah,
about. I got
totally.
a big, I got the biggest kick out of that. I didn't see that coming, and I loved it, and I'm glad it happened. That was great timing.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Matt's incredible. He was such a gem because originally the first time we tried to shoot that scene, that was Matt's last day on
Hmm.
set. He was scheduled in the first week, and Susan was just coming in at the end of the first week, and that was the only scene that they shared together. The first time we tried to shoot it, there was lightning that night, and we couldn't do it. Like we had the whole scene shot, like blocked, cameras ready to go, all lit, and there was lightning all over the place, like flash lightning. And like the rules say, basically you can't shoot in those conditions. And that was supposed to be his last day. He's supposed to fly out the next morning. So Matt graciously worked it out with his family and stayed to the next Monday so we could reshoot that scene or actually shoot it for the first time. Which sort of saved our bacon because on a small indie movie like this, one thing starts to go wrong, then the whole thing can unravel pretty quickly. So him being willing to stick around, because otherwise the other option would be somehow like get a body double or to get someone else to pretend to be, it just wouldn't have been the same. So I'm really, really thankful to him that he chose to work it out and stick around because he's really funny.
His body language in that scene was great too.
Yeah. Yeah,
No,
he's an underrated comedian. Like he's also like again, like Matt's like he's a handsome dude, really fit, kind of gets cast a lot like in a certain type of role, but he's also
Mhm.
really funny. And I think that I'm glad that he got to show his comedy chops in the movie.
And Steve Lunn, of course, playing Glenn, the owner
Yeah.
of a early mentioned bucket.
Yeah. The horny nympho fisherman. Well, the idea of a nympho is funny to me. It goes back to like certain movies like Shot Corridor by Sam Fuller. He's got like
Hmm.
nymphos and that. And that was kind of like an old idea of nymphos. This was like a thing in like late 50s, early 60s movies that I
Mm-hmm.
always kind of got a kick out of. And so the idea of having in even some Raymond Chandler novels, there's like nymphos kind of floating in and out. So the idea of making a nympho fisherman was too much to resist. So I had to make one.
A couple other performance I want to bring up. I am going to screw this woman's name up, so Mark always just calls her Tio Horn.
Yeah. Dio Horn, like she's incredible. You know, she's been around for a long time. Her and Steve Lund are actually really good friends. So casting her was like an interesting process where she had just done Pretty Hard Cases with Susan Kent
Uh-huh.
in Toronto. So they had just worked together. And then Susan told Dio about the movie that she's about to shoot in the East Coast. And Jonathan Torrens knows her as well. And he kind of like put the word in her ear about this movie. So she heard about it from two different places. And then it turned out we went to Steve Lund, who had auditioned, and he and Dio go back like 20 years. Like they were best friends in Toronto when they first moved there. Um, so all those things contributed to her saying yes to the role. And she's incredible. That character, it was really hard to cast Nicole Thorne because the actor had to have like a certain presence on camera
Mm-hmm.
that where they didn't have to do much and like you could just feel their power. You could feel the intimidation from them. And she just has that. She just has that presence on screen.
What was her reaction to having seafood chowder thrown in her face and hair?
Well, she was a real sport about it, I tell you. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that was not the thing that she was looking forward to doing with that character, but she was such a sport about it. I mean, yeah, I give her all the kudos to her because that was not easy. Yeah, it's not easy to get for anyone. You never really want to have a whole bucket of chowder thrown in your face, or not just your face, all over you, I should say.
The only thing was missing was a reference to Kill Bill Volume 2, where where the tobacco is thrown in Daryl Hannah's face, and she goes, "Gross."
Gross. Yeah, yeah, I know totally. I mean, I think I may have had thoughts about that Kill Bill scene writing it, but that scene had to evolve too as we were doing it because like there were certain things we couldn't do stunt wise. Like we did have stunt coordinators on the movie, but yeah, like we had to be creative with the way we did certain things because of just like limitations in time.
Hmm. And of course, I got to bring up, I may screw this woman's last name up too, Jess Salguero.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, it's Junior. A woman named Junior. That in its own just amuses me, you know. But one of the things I liked about her is how she came into this movie and she just kind of goes with the friggin' flow wherever she is. We think she's kidnapped, and yet she's part of the sex party, dressed in a lobster suit. And then another point, where there's a hold off, she goes with these other people. It's like, I don't think she cares. Just go where the action is, you know?
Totally. I think that's exactly her philosophy. Go with the where the action is. I think she just kind of blows in with the wind. She blows in with the wind and kind of blows out with the wind and just like let's life take her where it takes her.
You let her keep the lobster suit.
Oh geez. That's a good question. I don't know where that suit went. Someone's got it, and probably the dildo too. I don't ask too many questions. Once you're wrapped, it's like once the movie's wrapped, it's like wherever things go, they go. You know, they live another life.
She was great at it. You had a great knack for characters in this, and I love that. And it's actually made me interested to see Pogey Beach, because if your characters are anything like in this film, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm very interested. Where do you get ideas for a lot of these characters, Like, is there like based on people around you, certain quirks because you get that out of the Coen brothers a lot too. They seem to
Mhm.
pick up on a lot of weird characterizations that they pick up and they throw it into the characters that are. Mike Judge did that with movies like Office Space, you know.
Yeah, I think yeah, some of it's definitely kind of watching people and picking up on little idiosyncrasies that people have, like ways of speaking and behavior. One of the things the Coen brothers do so well is they is speech patterns and repetition, which people do all the time, and that almost never gets used in movies. Is
Hmm.
the way people actually speak, which is like repeating themselves a lot. People always have like little mottos that they kind of keep always going back to, whether they realize it or not. So part of it is like being open to the world around you, kind of picking up on that. People around me are always inspiring me. Tapioca on the phone and take her light come from my dad. That's my dad's sign off is tapioca. He's done it for like 20, 30 years or more. So that comes from my dad. Rhonda is like there's pieces of Rhonda from people that I know that are kind of all blended together. And then other things I see, like the manifesting and like that kind of stuff, I see a lot online and kind of picking away, like picking different pieces of that kind of philosophy of life and kind of sprinkling them in there. Um, yeah, and the fisherman thing, like Steve Lund's character Glenn, is kind of like a combination of a lot of different people I've met over the years in PEI, where they're your best buddy 1 minute, and then they might punch in the face the next minute, and then be your friend again the minute after that. Where they're like equal parts friendly but also threatening at the same time.
Oh wow.
I've found myself in a few of those situations. I've never been punched in the face, but um, where you feel like it could change at any given second. There's fishermen like that for sure on the island. Um, but yeah, there's pieces of a lot of different people and things in there for sure.
I'm a physical media person, you know, so are we gonna see Pogey Beach in Who's Your Father on Blu-ray?
Well, I have Pogey Beach on DVD. That I still have copies of. I really hope that we get some kind of physical. People have been asking a lot about DVD or Blu-ray for Who's Your Father.
Hmm.
So I really hope that we do have some sort of a physical media format of it soon. Because I love it too. Like I love like the artwork. I love having something physical and tangible that you can hold and
Hmm.
make part of a collection. I just think
Yeah.
it's really special. And it's fun to put those things together too. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I definitely think we'll be putting something together down the road.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think it's great to see films like this do well. I heard that Who's Your Father is doing well.
Yeah, for a Canadian independent film, especially with the number of theaters that it's playing at, it's only right now it's playing it opened in 5, it went to 9, now it's playing in 7. We're still staying tuned for like more theaters that are coming up in different places. It's opening in Ottawa on Friday. I'm going to be there for that. And Picton, which is my new sort of adopted town, it's going to be playing there next week. So for the number of theaters that we're at, it's doing really well. It was breaking box out. It was the highest grossing Canadian film ever in Charlottetown, as far back as they've kept the records for it. And it knocked Taylor Swift off the top of the charts and held off the Marvels movie during its opening weekend. So it's really cool to see how many people have been going out to it. And then I get messages every day from people who saw it in St. John's or saw it in Toronto or saw it in Charlottetown or Sydney, um, who really got a kick out of it. And when we did the tour too, like we went to Moncton, St. John. We didn't go to Fredericton, unfortunately. We just couldn't fit in the schedule. In Halifax. And it was really cool to meet people who saw the movie, got a kick out of it. The crowds were totally different in each place, which was really fun. Moncton, there was a whole van crew there because of Larry's van. The
Hmm.
owners of that van lived just outside of Moncton. They brought the van to the screening. So we got to like autograph the van, take pictures of the whole crew, and there's like a whole van subculture that are really into the movie because of the van. And and then St. John was like a really interesting mix of like very young people and like people who were older, and they were really invested in the love story between Larry and Rhonda, which is neat. So yeah, it's doing well. As a filmmaker, you just want your movie to be seen. Like that's what you want, and to have a movie play in theaters at all is a dream come true for me. especially in the era of streaming. It just, lots of big films don't see a theatrical release. So in
Hmm.
St. John too, our poster was right next to Killers of the Flower Moon, and as a Scorsese fan for 30, almost 30 years, like that was like just like what, like my movie is right next to Scorsese's movie, and it actually beat Killers of the Flower Moon in Charlottetown too in overall gross, which is like will be my only claim to fame against Martin Scorsese. But it was really special. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and more than I could have ever hoped for.
I'm a big Martin Scorsese's fan, but I have not seen Killers of the Flower Moon yet.
Yeah, I mean, I really loved it. It is long. I need to go to the bathroom for the last 45 minutes, and I just held off
Yeah,
desperately. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I went to your film over his. So, and
Oh wow.
I haven't seen Marvel. I haven't seen Hunger Games. Um, you know, so I saw your
Well,
film over a lot of them. So there you go.
well, I
Uh,
appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that.
so what's up next?
Well, next, I mean, we're still promoting this, and it's a lot of work. It's which I love. Like marketing the movie and promoting the movie is a lot of fun, and because we'll have the VOD iTunes release coming up before Christmas, and then sometime it'll come out on Paramount Plus in 2024. I've got a few other scripts that I've already been working on. A lot of people have been asking about a sequel to Who's Your Father. We got that a lot when we
Hmm.
were touring the movie around, and I actually have a script that could easily be tweaked to be a continuation of Larry and Rhonda's story.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that's would take place in PEI too. So that really perked my interest when I heard people saying that. I was like, oh wait, yeah, maybe we could do that. And in terms of Canadian movies too, that doesn't happen very often, which also interests me. The fact like to be able to do a sequel to something would be a lot of fun. And I loved working with Chris and Susan so much that I would love to do it again. So yeah, so that's there. But I've also got like other things that we're working on. I just want to close the gap between projects because it's like, it takes time to get a movie funded and then to shoot it and then to do the post. So, if I could put something out every 2 years, 2.5 years, that'd be pretty good. So yeah, I really want to get something off the ground pretty soon.
Is there any chance that and maybe this is hitting low, but man, I hope so. That this movie get any release in the States.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that, there's yeah, totally a chance. Like we've got a sales team, like sales agent, a company working for us to get international distribution.
So I want
Um,
this film to be seen, like I posted that night when I got out of the theater that I saw this. And then when I heard from you and I heard from Mark, I posted that I had you too because I'm trying to get more people to see this. And
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's all you want. You just want people to see it. And I would love for people in the States to see it because someone from New Zealand uh was at the screen in Halifax, excuse me, for the film festival when it premiered, and he thought the movie would really play well in New Zealand and Australia.
Oh,
Um,
nice, nice.
yeah, so because culturally, like there's similarities, and he thought it was sort of like universal enough that it would play in other countries. So we're really hoping that we can get it seen in the UK, New Zealand, Australia, the States, all those places for sure.
Oh, I wish you luck on that. I don't always go to the movies that are advertised at the fast food joints. I like to see creativities. I'd like to see ambition. It did help that you had an interesting poster to it.
Oh,
I
that's
love
good
the
to hear.
poster designs to both of your movies. So so here's to your next project, and I hope that Who's Your Father will get a release in the States. Like I said, you're my second guest from the movie I've had on here, so that's a double whammy. I did reach out to Chris Locke. I could not find Susan. I'm trying to think who else I had. I think I reached out to Jess on Instagram, but Instagram is hit or miss when it comes to reaching out to people. But
It is because your messages go to like a request folder that not everybody checks very often.
yeah, But nonetheless, I'm glad I got two of you on here to talk about it and still learn that Mark Hickox is still a terrible golfer. And
He is. Out of Chris and I kicked Mark's ass on the driving range. Don't tell him I said that. Well, he might read about it or hear about it anyway. But I gotta say that he had his moments. Chris and Mark would play that hole up and down all the time, the two of them, like it's some kind of competition with each other. So I don't know how you'll have to ask Chris how that turned out. But I really appreciate you having us on the show, and it means a lot that you enjoyed the movie.
are you gonna are you going to subject Mark to driver's lessons for the golf cart?
Well, yeah, I think he hasn't passed his certification yet.
I had a lot of fun with this movie, Jeremy, and I hope that you keep the same wit and the same creativity up with your future projects. Because, and I got to see Pogo Beach because I enjoyed the trailer for it, and if it's anything like Who's Your Father, then I think I'm in for a treat with that. So. Um, I wish you luck. I hope it does get seen in Australia, the UK, and the States as well. I think people would be greatly missing out if they didn't get to see this.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the kind words and really appreciate you having me on the show.
Absolutely. Before I let you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
Sure.
Yeah, just state your name and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise. Also mention that you're the director of Who's Your Father.
Okay, let me try to get it might take me a couple takes. Hi there, I'm Jeremy Larter, the writer director of Who's Your Father, and I'm on Greg Gilbert's what was it?
It's not fuck, but it's Python's Paradise, but I'll
Python's
take that.
Paradise. Python's Paradise. Okay. Let me do it again. Do I get a take two?
Yeah, go for it.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Larter, the writer director of Who's Your Father, and I'm on Greg Gilbert's Python's Paradise.
Not Greg Gilbert's fuck.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I keep the mistakes in here too. I remember I had Roddy Piper's daughter Ariel on here, and I had just the biggest kick out of how many times it took her to get that right, and
Well,
yeah.
it can be hard. Yeah, it's hard sometimes because I've done a couple of those, and you're trying to remember the whole sequence of it. You're like, okay, me, the name, the name, the name. Yeah, that's fine. Two takes. That's not too bad.
Not too bad, not too bad. Well, best of luck to you. Um, Anybody listen to this, check out Who's Your Father. Check out Pogey Beach. And keep in touch, see what Jeremy Larter is doing next. Jeremy, you have yourself a wonderful day and keep creating.
Yeah, thanks so much, Greg. You too.
All
All the
right.
best.
Take care.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.